Hello there, all you lovely people. It is the Drinker here. It's good to be back, and I'm catching up on the super chats that I left behind the other night when I did Ask the Drinker number 13. Yeah, it got a bit chaotic towards the end there, and I'm kind of aware that I didn't really follow any like pattern or strategy when it came to doing the supers. I just kind of tackled them as and when they came in. So I'm going to try my best to like catch up with them all. If I happen to skip over one or like I repeat one that I already did on the night, I do apologize, but I had a few drinks, as you probably noticed. So I may not get it exactly right, but I'll do my best anyway. So allow me to just jump right in. As far as I can tell, this was the next one. Cine Chap says, I've just started a YouTube channel reviewing films while working full time. What's something you wish you had known when you started? Cheers. I'm not sure, to be honest with you, because I mean, I feel like I haven't made any major mistakes, touch wood and all that. Yeah, I suppose the hard part with any YouTube channel is just getting it going. It's like getting that initial momentum. Getting that first few hundred subscribers so that people start paying attention to you a little bit. That's what allows you to grow relatively quickly. Getting to that point, I think, is the hard part. And, I was obviously really lucky. I had a few videos that went viral, and that just got my channel a huge amount of attention and a huge amount of subscribers relatively quickly. Not everyone's going to get that. Some people have a harder road ahead of them and a longer road. And don't get discouraged, I suppose. If your channel doesn't take off within the first few months, it's okay. It can still work. Just keep plugging away. Think about what you're doing. Try to act on the feedback if you get it from your subscribers and the people who watch your videos. Like if they consistently point out something that you're doing wrong or that you could do better, then listen to them. But otherwise, yeah, have a bit of faith in yourself and keep plugging away, man. So good luck. John Evans says, have you seen Echo's last few tweets? He has bad TDS. I think, yeah, I assume you mean Echo Chamberlain. I mean, look, the guy's entitled to say and think whatever he wants, I guess. I guess he's quite a liberal guy and he was quite disappointed by the election results. That's entirely in his purview, I hope he doesn't get too hung up on it, and I hope he can get back to just doing what he does best, which is making really good videos, really insightful videos. Like, I would honestly encourage people to check out Echo Chamberlain's work. I think he provides some of the most balanced, thoughtful critiques that you'll see on YouTube. So, yeah, hope he keeps doing what he does best. RRTNZ says, rhetorical question. Why haven't you watched Justified yet? Just watch episode 1 and you'll see why it's worth your time. Season 1 to 6 are amazing, but skip the sequel series. It's for modern audiences. Cool. Thanks, man. Thanks for the recommendation. And he also says, in space, Chuck Norris can hear you scream. Damn right. In fact, in space, Chuck Norris can make you scream. And you'll like it. Crooked says, Hail Drinker, the God Emperor won, and I saw Godzilla again this last weekend. Still great even on the 6th watching. Anyway, what's your favorite horror film? Also, I'm considering getting into 40K, and any recommendations on where to start? So I'll do your first question first, logically. Yeah, best horror films. I suppose The Thing is one of the top ones. Great body horror, great sense of paranoia, and slowly building tension and terror. So that's probably one of my top ones. Always a pleasure to rewatch it. And yeah, recommendations on where to start. I mean, in terms of armies and stuff, like the Space Marines are your kind of most, I guess, representative, army that you can get into. They're probably the most balanced, so they're probably a good introduction. I think when I started, it was like the Ultramarines that I got into, and then I think I gradually switched over to the Blood Angels because I just found them more interesting, really. But yeah, you've got the Eldar, you've got the Orcs, you've got the Tau. I never really quite understood the appeal of them, but they're all there for you. It's just a case of experimenting, I suppose, and finding the army that suits you. Why is this so far away from me? All right. I'm just conscious that you might not actually be able to hear what I'm saying. The next one is Michael Grace, big fan of yours, Drinker, and proud Michigan voted, or that you're, sorry, I'm a proud Michigan voter who voted for Trump. Question, which celebrity will stay in the US? My money is Mark Hamill. Cheers. All of them will. That's the thing. It's such an empty threat. Oh, I'm going to leave America. Yeah, sure you fucking are. Bunch of assholes. Samus Aran says, hey, Drinker, with Trump re-elected, Hollywood's orange man bad talk will ramp up. Think they'll keep pushing the message or finally make good films? It's too early to tell at this point. I've had various conversations with various people about this, and no one seems to be able to predict which way it's going to go. So far, at least, the reaction seems to have been more muted than last time, from what I recall. I guess we'll wait and see what happens at the Oscars and stuff, because the award ceremonies are usually a pretty good indicator of what tone they're going to take. Yeah, if they've got any common sense, they will shut the hell up about politics and just get back to making movies. Maybe, just maybe, they will see which way the winds are blowing on this one, and they'll have an attack of common sense. Stranger things have happened. David Gannon says, Hail Drinker, I've booked my flight and hotel room and I have tickets for Grand Rapids Comic Con. Looking forward to meeting you in person. Likewise, my friend, and hopefully we have good time there. Simon Ho, your next novel should be a team of mercenaries storm into a couple's house to take out a pet squirrel and raccoon because the fate of the US depends on it. That's what the bad guys do, man. Jesus. Chucksenhausen says, cheers, Drinker. How excited are you for part 2 of Cobra Kai next Friday? I would be excited, except that's when I fly out to Grand Rapids, which is kind of annoying, but, you know, I'll catch it when I get back. I can't wait to hear your live stream happy hour once part 3 premieres. Yeah, it's going to be great. Like, once it's, I guess when it's all said and done, to do a bit of a retrospective on the whole show and this particular season, you know, how it pans out. Hopefully they give it a fitting ending, you know? 2% right says, oh no, that's our, yeah, last super chat got ruined by autocorrect. Yeah. So I believe I'm now catching up to some of the bits that I did on the night. So let me just scroll up here a little bit. Let's see. Apologies while I'm just umming and awing here. What else have we got? Yeah, I did quite a few actually. So yeah, because I'm looking at this one about writing and directing Alien 3. I remember answering that one. I probably gave a really rambling response to it. Hopefully it made sense. Let's see. Jedi Brooks says District 9 happy hour. Don't forget. I would definitely do that. Yeah. We will talk, sir. We will talk. Oh yeah, Cat Breath Media says you should have good bad flicks on. I like his stuff actually. Like some of his behind the scenes like videos are actually really interesting. So yeah, I'd happily talk to him. I just don't know if he does live streams or makes appearances like this. Yeah. George the Giant Slayer, hail sir, says, make movies great again. All hail the Drinker. Thank you, man. And yes, we will hopefully make them good again. Next one. Verity Johnson says, my ancestors are from Fife and I'm planning a trip there. What are some cool places in Fife or nearby? Oh, yeah, I remember answering this one as well, actually. Yeah, if you go up the coast in Fife, over to the east side of it, you can go to places like St. Andrews, which are really pretty. There's loads of like, yeah, kind of picturesque, touristy coastal villages down that way. And then you've got Edinburgh just to the south as well. So all of those places are pretty damn good. And then if you go across the Tay River, you are in Dundee. Now, it's debatable whether you want to be in Dundee or not, but, you know, you can look at it at least. Next one is... oh, yeah. Nine Sun says, if I had a nickel for every time Trump prevented the first ever female US president, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. I know. Why do they keep watching him up against women? Strange. And he just keeps beating them, weirdly. Next one. B-Chain, I think I answered this on the night as well. When discussing video games, I don't recall if I've heard you mention Elder Scrolls. Have you played them? Very important for me. I'd given a lot to see an Elder Scrolls movie pre-2015. God forbid they try to do it now. Super worried for Elder Scrolls 6. Yeah, I think I did answer this on the night as well. So yeah, I haven't really played the Elder Scrolls games. I think it's such a huge investment of time to get into them. I've just never had it, never had the time. Okay, G. Owen Wares says, "Would like to send you a few goodies. Not a dead squirrel." Oh yeah, you did get in touch, so I've given you my PO box address, so you can get in touch that way. Mo Zislak says he advised me not to pull a Rakita. I was hitting the booze quite hard that night, but I survived. It was okay. Did have a bit of a stinking hangover the next day, I will say. Yeah, Christopher B says, any chance of Breaking Bad review or recommendation? I think I probably talked a bit about this on the night as well, but yeah, I mean, my take has always been with stuff like that. With Breaking Bad, like it's universally agreed to be a fantastic TV show, and I certainly can't disagree with it. Had an absolute blast watching it, and I have no real criticisms of it. I just don't know what else I could add to the discussion at this point. Hey, I recommend a show that like has been universally recommended by everyone. Like, yeah, okay, yeah. The best thing I could probably delve into, I suppose, would be to take Walter White's character arc and talk a little bit about why he's such an interesting character and how you can turn a character into an antagonist or at least a villain. But still make them interesting, still make them complex, and still give them an element of humanity to them as well. So they do a lot of interesting things with this character. So I think that might make up for a more interesting video rather than an overall review of the show, which I guess would just be me repeating what other people have said. Yeah, someone asked if I was going to watch Juror number 2, Clint Eastwood's final movie. Yes, I will. Yeah, Andre Mogo-san says, any thoughts on diving deeper into Korean cinema? I'm sure titles like My Mister or It's Okay to Not Be Okay will tickle your fancy. Yeah, as I said, I think before, always up for watching more foreign films, especially Korean stuff. Like they produce a lot of interesting movies and TV shows. I'm still trying to get Mahler to watch All of Us Are Dead. One day I will achieve this. But yeah, always up for that. And if people have got good recommendations, then let me know. Yeah, Dark Hour says somehow Happy Hour returns, and it was glorious. I enjoyed doing that with Space Ice. Anton Jermacoy says, not a question, but on N7 Day, I will heartily recommend Mass Effect Trilogy. Action-packed firefights, square-jawed heroism, heart-wrenching player choices, and a bunch of hot aliens for good measure. Yeah, I've heard pretty good things about the Mass Effect games. I played a bit of Mass Effect 2. I don't know what happened. I don't know why I never got into it and completed it like I should have. I think other games got in the way, but I am always up for experiencing them properly now. So, yeah, it's just, again, same thing with Elder Scrolls. It just requires quite a bit of time on my part. Vayborn, I think I got asked this as well on the night. Drinker, if Trump sat down for an interview with you, what would you ask? I think my answer at the time had been, what's your favorite whiskey? And then people pointed out that he doesn't actually drink. So that was immensely disappointing to me. Yeah, I suppose I would ask, like, did you have to prepare to debate Kamala or did you just wing it? I think I know the answer. Yeah, Jander asking me what my review process is. Oh yeah, so I definitely answered that one. Asking about whether I take notes when I'm watching the movie or just remember it. So I was explaining, yeah, I tend to remember what I saw and then I'll think about it the day after when it comes to writing my review. And generally, I can recall it pretty well. Reptile says, looking to write my own story about female warriors who fight monsters. Do you have any writing advice to get me started? Oh yeah, I remember answering that too. My goodness, I did a lot on the night. I must have I must have blanked a lot of these. Oh yeah, I like Dark Hour's suggestion as well. Here's an idea: The Drinker Ruins, a great film. Yeah, suggest ideas for how we can make things worse. I could definitely do that. And yeah, Book of Grudges asked me if I was still writing or too busy to with YouTube. Yeah, and my answer at the moment is unfortunately too busy with YouTube, because writing a book takes the best part of a year, which is quite a lot of time to invest. And yeah, unfortunately, I can't do both very effectively, so I kind of have to pick one right now. Yeah, Finbar White says, "Hey, Drinker, is there any chance you could give a shout out to Eli Moses? He's a young YouTuber. He's currently reviewing Lost, and he's trying really hard." Well, good luck to you, Eli Moses. Hopefully, you find an audience for your channel, and I hope you produce good content, man. Here's to you. Enclave here says, hopefully the glorious dictator Justin Trudeau will be out next of office. Seeing Trump win kind of gives me hope for the West. God bless America, and God bless the Enclave. By the way, have you gotten snow in Scotland yet? Oh yeah. I was explaining the other day. Yeah, we're going through a weird, unseasonably bit of mild weather at the moment here in Scotland. So yeah, it's been okay so far. No snow, no frost, nothing. Long may it continue. If this is global warming, man, sign me up. Oh, yes, I got a question about animation there. I remember doing that. Oh, yeah. Sly Jester says, Quint's speech from Jaws and the gas station conversation from No Country for Old Men are two scenes that sent chills down my spine. Is there any dialogue-only scenes that truly gripped you? So, yeah, I mean, I guess the easy answer would be things like Quentin Tarantino movies, like the bit at the beginning of Inglourious Bastards. That slow build up of tension with Hans Landa, and just how he slowly reels the guy in, starts out all polite, and then just eventually breaks the guy down mentally into revealing that the Jews are hiding underneath his floorboards. Brilliant bit of writing. Really captures the terror of an environment like that, and the kind of world that they were living in, I suppose, and just makes him such a fascinating character. I think as well, the bathroom scene in The Shining, when Jack kind of bumps into Grady, the waiter, and like spills a drink down him. So, he takes him off to the gents just to try and clean him up a little bit. And the conversation starts out fairly polite, but then it just gradually unfolds and gradually unravels into something way more sinister. And yeah, when he talks about correcting his wife and child, that's pretty sinister stuff. And it's just again, there's a real art to a slow build up with a conversation like that. Like no music, nothing, just a couple of actors just delivering excellent dialogue that slowly builds up that tension. So I guess those would be some of my top picks. Powdered Toast Man says, thoughts on a Predator film set on primeval Earth? I was thinking it could be cool to follow a stranded Predator dealing with dinosaurs. Maybe whilst the wrist nuke is what kickstarts the dino extinction. It'd have to be a goddamn big nuke, man. Those things, I think, from Predator 2, it's like it destroyed 10 city blocks. So you need one like a couple of orders of magnitude bigger to cause a global extinction. But yeah, I wouldn't be averse to like them playing around with the formula a little bit, like show something like this from the Predator's point of view, where they have to hunt something that's even more dangerous than them. I think that could be quite cool. And yeah, sure, Predators versus dinosaurs, why not? Daniel Rood says, Jack Daniels, not Woodford Reserve or something. Well, I used what I had to hand, and I happened to have a bottle of Jack Daniels kicking around, and that was a good opportunity to use it up. And use it up I did. Snex says, just think you could rival EFAP in video length if you could pass out and just leave the stream running. Cheers, mate. It's funny, right? That night, I did have this weird sort of jolt of worry when I was about to fall asleep, right? Because I'd shut down the stream and everything, or I'd shut down the computer and I was heading off to bed. and I remember that the stream had sort of froze. And I had this weird thought of like, oh my God, what if it like restarted the stream and there's like 2 running in parallel and I only shut down one of them? It's just still going. But yeah, fortunately that did not happen, so it was okay. But yeah, I do wonder sometimes, could I just do like a Hassan Piker and just like get up and leave and just show people my empty chair for like a 10-hour stream? Sure. I mean, seems to work for him. Adam Twomley says Veilguard playthrough on Critical Gamer. Oh, I just don't know, man. Like, I feel like that ship has almost sailed, actually, because it's a game that I think has been really, in the news for the first week or so, and then people have just lost interest. And I feel like I'd be just a Johnny come lately, getting into the game now when everyone else is just winding down and completing it. So now I just feel like I don't want to go near it, especially again because it's like it's an RPG and you're going to have to invest some serious hours in it. Like I'm already about 12 hours into Silent Hill 2 remake, so that's kind of eating up my time at the moment. And I just got to the Lakeview Hotel for anyone who was wondering. Io says, it's not a good night unless you wake up in a bush in a garden down the streets, which I've done, actually. Also, what are your top 3 Paul... Oh, yeah, I remember answering this. Top 3 Paul Newman movies. Chuck Flamingo says, Drinker, I released my fan film, Godzilla Raids the Election. People have called it psychotic, bonkers, and apolitical. Are these good reviews? Absolutely. Hopefully you get a lot more of them. Warrior Poet says, Hail Drinker, I've begun my master's at the University of Edinburgh online as I'm in Hawaii. We are kinsmen now. Yes, welcome aboard, sir. Have you seen the original Manhunter? A Scotsman as Hannibal. I hope to buy you a beer in person one day. Well, sounds good to me, man. And yeah, it was Brian Cox who played Hannibal in the original version. Didn't really love his portrayal. I mean, he's a good actor, but I think when you compare his interpretation to Anthony Hopkins, there's really no comparison there, So yeah, it was a decent early stab at it, I suppose, but Hopkins just nailed it with Silence of the Lambs. Matt PG says, we'd love to see a Legend of Zelda series in the animation style of Arcane. Yeah, that I could live with. That'd be awesome. Radio Spec says, reserving my spot for happy hour 1567 to talk about No Country for Old Men. Get in line, sir. Lee Kindler says, hello, Drinker. Are you familiar with the work of S. Craig Zahler? If so, any favorites? Not too familiar with his stuff, unfortunately, so I could not tell you. Apologies. Spartan Bot says, your internet is in competition with your liver to see which dies first. Yeah, I don't know what was going on the other night. Actually, it was weird. Yeah, I obviously didn't see it from your guys' point of view, but I'm guessing my stream just froze for a few seconds. Yeah, it seemed to come back okay, so... unfortunately, these things happen sometimes. Shadowhawk says, have you seen any of Michael Bayne's lesser-known films, such as Cherry Falls, Bereavement, or The Victim, that he wrote and directed? Not really. I mean, it's mostly the mainstream stuff. So, yeah, like obviously, the Terminator movies, Aliens, that sort of thing. I liked him in Navy SEALs actually, and I liked him in Planet Terror. So, and yeah, he gave a great performance in The Rock, a relatively small role, but I think he absolutely crushed it. So, yeah, he was a weird one. A Tombstone, obviously, as well. He was great as Johnny Ringo in that. I guess it's kind of a shame. Like, he's one of those guys who somehow just didn't quite transition from the 80s into the 90s. Like, it felt like he was destined to become an A-lister in the 90s, and it just never quite happened for him. Don't know why. But yeah, I mean, in terms of his body of work, yeah, I'd like to see some of his later films just to see how he progressed as an actor. Coffee Bird says, did the Drinker like the Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter movie? Would he watch Trump movie of similar genre? I remember Vampire Hunter, actually. Yeah, I quite enjoyed it. It was totally bonkers and, yeah, so over the top, like when he's like swinging an axe into a tree and the whole thing just fucking explodes because he's that powerful. It's great. It's such a bizarre concept, but I thought it played out pretty well. Quite enjoyed it. Keith Ordaz says, cheers, drinker. I used to get blackout drunk and wake up in random strangers' vehicles. Glad I don't drink anymore. It's probably for the best, yeah. I think my favorite one was when I woke up on my kitchen floor. I mean, I at least made it back to my own house, but for the life of me, I have no idea how I got there. And yeah, I remember I'd taken off my boots, thrown up in them, and then put them neatly in the corner, and then just lay down on the floor, still in my clothes and my overcoat, and just fell asleep, as you do, and left the back door open. I'm sure it made sense at the time. John Thomas says, what is the greatest movie ever made and why is it Casablanca? I think you're mistaken, sir. The greatest movie ever made is Big Trouble in Little China, obviously. Matt PG says 26 degrees Celsius here in southern central Pennsylvania. Damn, that's actually really warm. And check you out, Americans using Celsius like civilized people. So I actually understand what it means. Yeah, that's a really hot day for a Scottish person anyway. Classified Leaks says, what is a silly but fun story idea that you would consider making? Also, what are your thoughts on Metropolis, the 1920 one? So the Fritz Lang movie from Christ, I think I've watched that once a very long time ago, just out of curiosity to see what it's like. Obviously limited by the technology of the time, but still a fascinating piece of cinema just to see what they were accomplishing in terms of like, you know, the set design and everything. It's so kind of extravagant, and it's such an interesting view of what they thought the future was going to look like. It's kind of just an interesting movie from that perspective, like a little time capsule. And in terms of what was the other question there? And a fun but silly story idea that I would consider making. A predator, like from the Predator movies, that gets stranded on Earth and instead of becoming a hunter, decides to integrate into human society and has to work a day-to-day job, like maybe an Amazon warehouse worker or something like that. And he has to form like a tentative friendship with, with a human. Yeah, they don't get on at first, but, eventually they find common ground and, they end up becoming best buddies by the end. I would pay to see that movie. I want to make that happen. Patriotic Cat says, ice cubes are frozen shots of water. Thank you. They are. That is very true. I don't know how much you get out of doing a shot of water, but I mean, sure. Tin Soaked says, one of my favorites movies is Billy Bob Thornton's Sling Blade. Interesting drama. Highly recommend. All right, nice. Tropignat says, you did well with the name. You could translate it to English as Bone Cruncher. Nice. That's a good name. Tom Waiting says, have you ever watched the animated series The Boondocks? I don't believe I have, no. Teletran says, drinker, any bar meetup plans for your Grand Rapids con trip next week? For those going, any highlights to look forward to? So, I mean, Gary and I are both going to be there. I think we're doing a few panel events together. We might be doing a live reaction to a movie. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but it's one of the things suggested to us. I might see if I can show off Rogue Elements if anyone wants to see it while I'm there. So those are things to look out for, I suppose. We don't have official meetups planned in that we haven't like booked a meeting spot or anything. But it might be that, we can just go to a bar or something and we'll just let people know, hey, we're here for the next few hours. Come meet us and have a drink and we'll see what happens. So yeah, I guess keep an eye out on Twitter and my community page on YouTube, and I'll post any updates there. What's this? Darth Gable. Free at last. Thank God Almighty we're free at last. Nice. Aaron Quilas says, do you have any plans to stumble around Epic Universe when it opens next year here in the Freedom State of Florida? Looks like a true Disney killer. I'm interested in seeing it for sure. There might be some things that are in the works for me and my fellow YouTubers to go do. Well, stay tuned for more information about that. I'll let you know. Joe King Lee says, production hell in real life. Ask the drinker number 13. It wasn't that bad. We had like one internet glitch and then I think it was pretty much on track after that. So, hey, live TV and all that. Philip Lewis says, greetings, drinker. Have you seen Kill yet? India's bloodiest action movie ever. Think John Wick and the raid on a train. Nice. Sign me up. That sounds pretty good, actually. Brian Burgett says, well, just curious. Do you have a position on Scottish independence? Love your channel, brother. Yeah, my position is I'm happy with things as they are, I guess. I don't feel particularly strongly one way or the other. I guess what I'm saying is like I could be convinced one way or the other. It's just right now I'm not. Your name is an adverb says, are there any current British comedians that you'd recommend? Grew up watching Allo Allo, Are You Being Served, Dad's Army, and others on local public broadcasting in the US. Curious if there is anything like those today. Oh, that's an interesting one. I think when you said comedians, I guess you meant comedies or comedy TV shows. Only Fools and Horses would be another one. That was an absolutely fantastic comedy back in the day. A great sitcom. Yes Minister, again, very like dry, humored, but very smart, very witty. In the Thick of It was like a kind of modern equivalent of it. Yeah, so The Office, like the British version of The Office, less of a comedy and more like a dark sort of comedy, I guess, because the humor is quite grim at times. But yeah, it's an interesting one to compare to the US Office, I suppose. I always used to like. Oh yeah, you mentioned Allo Allo. I'm trying to think of any others. What else did I used to watch back in the day? Yeah, they certainly don't really do comedies now here because that's not allowed in the UK anymore. Faulty Towers, did you watch? Yeah, Faulty Towers is another one, definitely. Yeah, I can recommend that anytime. Yeah. Robert Hayes says, who would you rather get with, Jill Valentine, Claire Redfield, or Ada Wong? That's not even a competition. It's Jill Valentine all the way because she can make me sandwiches. I don't like the Ada Wong thing. I never quite got. I always find her just kind of annoying. I hate people that try too hard to be mysterious. Like I always got that feeling from her. And with Claire Redfield, I quite liked her in the original games, but like the character model they've got now with her, like her big, like chubby sort of apple cheeks that she's got going on, it doesn't look great. It makes her look about 12 years old, so that's not a great look. Blackadder, not I, says, hello, drinker. Are you working on a new book? Do people know Trump is in the same political party as Lincoln? Do Democrats want people to be easily manageable, conformist slaves? Am I asking too many questions? You possibly are. You're asking questions that I can't necessarily answer. But in terms of books, I'm not working on anything right now because I guess YouTube takes up rather a lot of my time. So as I was explaining earlier, it takes the best part of a year to get a book from just the idea stage to completion. And that's for someone like me who works pretty quickly. If you're George R.R. Martin, it takes about 10 years at least. So, yeah, I don't have the time to devote all of that to writing a book while also keeping like 3 YouTube channels going. Unfortunately, I can only be in so many places at once. David Rood says, a show, not Firefly, that ended too soon. Jericho is my pick. Yeah, mine would probably be Farscape. I wanted to see them get a couple more seasons out of that. I really wanted to see a proper wrap-up for that series. Don't know why my microphone keeps moving for some reason. So, yeah, that would have been my pick. September Sky says, how are you feeling about Arcane Season 2? I was sad when I heard its ending after, but I became quickly encouraged since it sounds like the writers have a full and complete plan. Yeah, I would rather go out on a high than like try to do like 4 or 5 seasons and it just peters out into crap. So yeah, they know what they're doing. I think they know how they want to end it, and I respect that. I'm just interested to see what they do. Master of Puppets says, just rewatched Rocky Balboa. Love his speech to his son. What are some of your favorite inspirational movie speeches? That's definitely one of them. And I genuinely love Rocky Balboa. I think it's a great way to cap off the series. And I'm so glad that they got to do it. Al Pacino's speech in Any Given Sunday, I just think that's fucking brilliant. And it's so true as well. That's what I love about it. It's not just like cool sounding phrases just delivered with conviction. It's like, yeah, that is how you actually overcome and succeed in life. You do it what has he said? Life's a game of inches. Inch by inch, play by play is how you win. And the breaks that you need, the opportunities that you need, are everywhere around you if you're just able to seize them, and you win, and you climb your way up to success inch by inch. That's such a good way of looking at it. So yeah, that's probably one of my favorites, I think. MSD Gaming says, if you got a chance to write a movie for any franchise, past or present, which would it be? P.S. I lived in Edinburgh for 6 years. Gorgeous place. It is. It's just basically a giant version of Hogwarts. But yeah, a movie for any franchise. I'd probably love to do a Star Trek. I was going to say Star Wars. No. Yeah, probably a Star Trek movie. I'd love to have done one with like the original cast. I'd love to see where I could take it and still do something interesting with them. Obviously, it's irrelevant now, but yeah, that probably would have been my choice. Ripper's After School Project says, hello, Drinker. Have you read Doctor Doom, Doctor Strange graphic novel, Triumph and Torment? It's from the 80s. What's your thoughts? I'm afraid I don't have any thoughts on that one because I haven't read it. Yeah, as you'll probably know about me, I'm not like a huge comic book guy. I'm not an expert on this stuff. I'm not particularly well-versed in them, sadly, so I have not read it. Jordan Pendragon, this is a two-parter from him. Blade Runner, It's a Wonderful Life, The Thing were unsuccessful at the time of their releases, but we love them now. Which recently released films do you think will become sleeper hits? Gen Alpha will look back on in the decades to come with nostalgic fondness. I mean, I think the one that's generally considered that is Dredd. Didn't do particularly well at the cinema, never got a sequel, sadly, but I think it's regarded as a fantastic action movie and a great take on the character. So I think that's probably going to be one of the biggies. Chad Kaluta says, Drinker, if today's a day you do something you haven't done in a while, try coitus with a woman. Nice. I'm saying nothing about that. Tony says, your fandom loves you so much, we want to see you shit yourself tonight. I can understand that. By the way, I'm halfway through your first book. Pretty good so far. Awesome, man. Thank you, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And sadly, I didn't shit myself the other night. And interestingly, I didn't throw up either. I actually went and made myself a big fucking sandwich before I went to bed, so that soaked up some of the alcohol. Adam Twomley says, can we get a pissed up Veilguard playthrough? I don't know, man. You've seen me pissed trying to play Silent Hill 2, and like that doesn't always end well. It just ends up with me getting killed a lot by the monsters. So I don't think you want to see me do that with Veilguard. I would like to fuck up the character creation, though, when I'm drunk. That'd be good fun. Benjamin Flensburg says, I love your noodle in the books. I have them all. Okay, thanks. Jesus Davila says, Drinker, hypothetically, if you were to make a live action Dead Space, what approach would you take? Through what perspective of the marker outbreak would you have the audience look through? I think I answered this on the night. I mean, like I said at the time, I think there's something really haunting about the sort of ghost ship in space concept, which is what you get in Dead Space, where the outbreak has already happened, and so you come aboard the ship when it's already been taken over by is it necromorphs? I think it is. Fucking my brain's letting me down here. So you kind of see the aftermath of it, and I think that's great for setting the atmosphere. You get that spooky, like, ghost ship effect. You're piecing together what happened here, and you just see like the devastated remains of what went on, and you have to figure out how it happened. I think that's how I'd want to see it. Yeah, Jay Smart says, just wanted to thank you for all that you've done. Your push against the message has helped give we aspirants like myself a little bit of hope that maybe we can get out and get our own works published. So thanks. Thank you, man. And I hope you manage it. Best of luck to you. Sir Wasey says, have you seen the trailer for show American Story? As creators of this game said, it's a full-blown display of pure stereotypes and it looks hilarious. No, I haven't seen that actually. No, I need to look that one up. JVN says, love open bar. Could I get your thoughts on Tron, both the original and Legacy, and perhaps your thoughts on the new one currently in the works? So I'm one of those crazy people who didn't love Tron Legacy. I just felt like it was um, an unnecessary sequel. I thought like you know, the deep fake de-aged Flynn just looked weird. I thought it was kind of disappointing that Tron himself was barely in it. Um, yeah, I never quite understood what they were going for with that one. As people always point out, though, but the soundtrack was amazing. Well, that's cool, but like, I don't care about that if the rest of the film's pointless. The original movie's just got a real classic 80s charm to it, I suppose, and it was such an interesting concept. Like, oh my god, I've got sucked inside a computer. Um, and the way it tries to represent the various programs as like actual human beings. I loved David Warner in it. I loved what was it called again? The Master Control program. Yeah, and just like their attempts at like computer animation. I think most of it was actually, yeah, I think it was like almost like cell animation, just done up to look like computer animation because they didn't have the technology at the time. But either way, I think it looked great. Um, Andrea Lundgaard says, "Hi, incredible drinker. Do you plan on watching or reviewing Has Been Hotel? Would love to hear your review on an anti-Disney show. I can take a look at it. I've never gotten around to it yet, but you know, it's just one of those things I'd have to add to the list, unfortunately." Akirian Carter says, "It would have been cool if they did Predator 3 movie where Dutch and Harrigan team up to take on a group of predators. A nice way to conclude it." Absolutely. I wish they'd done something like that in the mid 90s. You know, when Arnold and Danny Glover were young enough to do it. I think that would have been cool as fuck. Yeah, because they were already playing with the idea that the US government understands what the predators are. They're trying to capture one. The Predator 2 ends on quite an open note where, you know, Danny Glover says, "Oh, don't worry, you'll get another chance," implying like he knows the predators are going to be back and maybe he's going to get he's going to be ready for them this time or something. And yeah, I think the idea of the two of them teaming up would have been fucking awesome. Maybe even leading like a new commando team to try and take out a predator. Yeah, would have been a nice way to round things out, but I guess it never happened. Yeah, Tinso. I think I remember I think you asked me about the Terrifier movies. Yeah, my answer, I think, at the time and now is yeah, it's not really my kind of horror movie. Just like you know, torture porn, just like as much gore and stuff as you can fit into it. So it's not really my style. It just doesn't really appeal to me, unfortunately. Maybe I've become like an old stick in the mud with that sort of thing. I don't know. The Mad Capper says, "Any familiarity with the Half-Life series?" I mean, yes, I'm very familiar with Half-Life. Absolutely loved the original back in the day. I think I got a brand new PC just so I could play it because my old one was chugging at the time and it couldn't handle the Half-Life graphics. So I was very excited to get a new one. And I played that, completed it. I got the I got the like the add-on, which was like Opposing Force. Really enjoyed that. I got Blue Shift. That was okay. I mean, it's fun. Like, I was happy just to be playing more Half-Life stuff. And then obviously a few years went by before Half-Life 2. And that was a weird one, right? Because I got maybe halfway through it and then stopped. And I don't know why. Like, I can't remember what got in the way, but I played other things. And like forgot about it kind of. And then like 10 years later, I decided I was going to play it again. So I dug out my old copy of the game, tried to fire it up on Steam, but I'd forgotten all my Steam login details. And so I had to get in touch with Valve and be like, "Hey, like I've got this copy of the game. I can't remember my old Steam account login info. Can you like let me in or whatever?" And they're like, "Yeah, you're going to have a photograph of the game and stuff so we can get the ID number." Anyway, really boring story short. I was able to get back into it and finally completed it like 10 years after I originally got the game. And it was excellent. So yeah, I'm pretty familiar with the Half-Life games and they're very good. Paul Connolly says, "Hail Drinker, have you seen X-Men 97 yet? And if so, what do you think? Also, what's your opinion on the original X-Men animated series from 92? I vaguely remember the animated series from back in the 90s. I wasn't like a diehard fan or anything, but I remember it being pretty fun. Like, I guess, like, 10-year-old me probably wasn't paying that much attention, so like the deeper meanings behind any of it, I was just like, hey, superheroes have like doing cool stuff. That's good enough for me. Haven't watched X-Men 97 yet. I mean, I kind of feel like I'm too old for it now, really. Yeah, like I know it's it seemed to like people seemed to be quite pleased with it. Like, you know, everyone was predicting it was going to be woke as fuck, and it wasn't, and it was actually quite decent. But yeah, I guess it wasn't really my thing. Big J says, since Happy Hour is back, can you do one on the Stallone Dread movie with Razor Fist? I mean, I'd happily do it with him if he wants to. Like, I guess I'd rather do something like Blade Runner with him. But if he's willing to talk about the Stallone movie, sure. Ship My Pants says your 5 favorite cheap but good Scotch whiskies. Huh. Okay. Cheap ones, probably Bell's. It doesn't get much more cheap or mainstream than that. Glenmorangie, which, you know, people for some reason act like it's a good quality malt whiskey. It's not. It's cheap as fuck. But it's actually, it's okay for what it is, I suppose. What else? Famous Grouse at a push, I suppose. I mean, that's the sort of thing you're just going to mix with something like Coke or whatever. What else? Was it malts or blended? Oh, just Scotch. Right. So I've got free reign because, yeah, Bell's and Famous Grouse are blended whiskies. So it's just like whatever crap they can scrape together. I'm trying to think of other ones that are kind of cheap but okay. Yeah, those are probably the main ones. You can usually get Bruick Laddie. That's a malt, but it's usually fairly cheap. I think it's dropped not in quality, but like I think its perception in the market has dropped quite a bit, so it's become like a cheaper whiskey. And no, not Balvenie. That's usually quite expensive. There's one more, but the name kind of escapes me right now. Yeah, I guess those would be my recommendations for cheaper ones. King of the Wicker People says, if you made the Metal Gear series into a movie, how would you go about doing that, and who would you cast? If you're going to make the Metal Gear series, all right, you've done the same question twice. Okay. This is a tough one because the Metal Gear games straddle that awkward middle ground between like trying to have like say accurate weapons and equipment and stuff like that, but like all woven into this like fantastical, like out of this world kind of environment and story where you've got completely outlandish characters. I think you'd have to embrace it. I wouldn't want to see them go like say the Penguin route, you know, like the TV show that's on HBO. As much as I really love that show, I wouldn't want to see them have like a really grounded, realistic version of Metal Gear. I'd want to see the outlandish characters and stuff. I say, yeah, just embrace it, have fun with it. And yeah, I don't know who I'd cast as Solid Snake at this point. Like, it's a bit of a. If it had been back in the day, it definitely would have been an actor like Michael Bain. I'm pretty sure the likeness of him for the box art was even based on Michael Bain from the Terminator movie. But yeah, he would have been a good choice. I think he's got the physique for it as well, which is what you want. Jorg says, as a novelist, what are your favorite novels? I mean, that's going to be an easy one. It would be something like The Lord of the Rings. I suppose that's a series of books that I can go back to anytime that I want and always enjoy it. Like, it's just got such a great rhythm to it. Like the descriptions of everything are just beautiful. Yeah, it's like perfect fantasy story. I don't know. You just can't top it, I suppose. Northern English Bastard says, what's your opinion on Penguin so far? I love it. It's been an excellent show. I've really enjoyed it. Bose Bondalo says, to be honest, I haven't seen a man beat a woman this bad since the Olympics. Ooh, brutal. True, though. Vincent Nylon says, Ben Kingsley hits on my mother when my parents happened to be in Poland when he was filming Schindler's List. Thank you from Finland. Well, I remember that on the night. Such a random story, but so cool. Yeah, Matthew says, Drinker, any films or shows coming up that you think will have the potential to be good and ones that you think will be crap? Well, I've got high hopes for Arcane Season 2. I really do. So hopefully that's good. Hopefully Cobra Kai can end on a high note. Squid Game Season 2, the jury's out on that one. I mean, the trailer constructs a reasonable premise for him to be back involved in the games again. I just don't know if it's going to have the same impact as the first season, but hopefully. Stephen DeLeon says, who wins, Goku or Superman? Whoa, tough one. My money's on Goku, though. Christopher G says, hopefully Hollywood takes the hint and goes back to competent storytelling over the woke agenda. Great job. Now use this cash towards a new liver. Thank you. I'm going to need a lot more, though. Appreciate it, my friend. Paul Connolly says, having seen your production hell video for Full Metal Jacket, would you do one for the Twilight Zone movie, or would that be too disturbing? Can understand if you wouldn't. Hearing what happened to Vic Morrow shook me. Yeah, I think, I don't know. I try to generally have a lighter tone with the production hell videos, because it's usually like a combination of factors, like a really difficult shoot, or a director who's an asshole, or actors being really difficult, or whatever. Almost like we can have a bit of a laugh about it now. Almost like you telling a story about some scrape that you got into, but everything turned out fine ultimately. Whereas with that, it's like, no, that was just a movie marred by a real tragic accident on set. And, I don't know, I can't say much about it beyond that. I suppose it would just be like, they were making this film and a horrible accident occurred and people died as a result. So yeah, I don't think it would be a great one for production hell. And I certainly wouldn't want to try and make light of something like that. Daffy Duck says, best Christmas movie, and yes, Die Hard does count. The story of Hans Gruber, who died hard, is legendary. So you like T2 more than T1. Is it also a better movie? I can't remember if I said I liked T2 more than T1, although I probably did. Yeah, this is the same sort of discussion you end up having about Aliens versus Alien, in which case I'd say Alien is probably the better movie, even though I'd rather watch Aliens more. With T2, it's ultimately just kind of retelling the same story with the same premise as the first one, but I think, you know what, the balance that they strike with, the new Terminator, the old one having to now team up with Sarah Connor, the relationship dynamic with Sarah and John, and her distrust of the T-800, but eventually coming to reconcile with it and putting her past behind her. I honestly think I would rate T2 slightly above T1 in terms of the storytelling. I think there's more going on there, and it handles it more competently. And yeah, obviously it's a much bigger production and a slicker product, but like I think the writing is there on point as well. St. Louis says, Master Chief, mind telling me what you're doing at a Democratic rally? Sir, giving the Liberals back their agenda. Leon S. says, where's your movie, Rogue Elements, Drinker? Are you scared of releasing it? All caps for some reason. No, not at all. It is essentially ready to go. I think what we did, we showed it to the backers and they seemed to unanimously like it. They gave us some good feedback just in terms of like the audio balancing and stuff, and a few scenes where we had the idea to trim out a second or two here, or add like just a little bit of ADR in there just to flesh things out a little bit, or clarify certain things, or just make a scene that might have felt a little bit clunky, just move a little bit slicker, which is fine. It's all tiny little tweaks, but every time you do it, you then have to adjust, like, say, your soundtrack to compensate for it. So it's just basically it took a couple of weeks for us to rejig it. Now we're just really trying to decide on the right date to release it. I'm going to be having a meeting with the guys like Travis and Carson and stuff either tomorrow or the day after, and that's when we're going to schedule a release date. But yeah, it's pretty much ready to go, and we'll see how people take it. Hound of Ill Omens says, hey Drinker, do you think you're going to review any of the secret level episodes when they come out? I don't know. I don't know much about it, unfortunately. Cash Acus says, Um, Haley Atwell is not too old to be Lara Croft. She was great in Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, and she would be great in her own Tomb Raider film. Well, I mean, I agree in principle. My take on it, though, is they're not just going to want her for one movie. They're going to want her for like a trilogy at least. So you're talking probably the next 6 or 7 years. Okay, so she's 42 now. So that's fine. You know, she can do that physically. But can you imagine her still trying to do this shit when she's pushing 50? Then it becomes a bit more difficult. You know, this is what they're always thinking of when they want to launch a character like this as part of a franchise. Okay, do they have the staying power to be doing this for the next 10 years? And in her case, for any person who's going to start an action role like that in their 40s, probably not. So that's the problem right there. Like I say, if they'd managed to get her 10 years ago, she would have been fucking perfect for Lara Croft. And yeah, she could have done a trilogy of movies that would have carried her up to about 40, would have been fine. Now I think it's probably too late. Deez says, how badly is Gladiator 2 going to bomb? Because it will. Another movie not needing a sequel. Yeah, I think so. Badly, I suspect. It's a movie that just no one seems to be enthusiastic for. Everyone kind of mocked the trailer. It's weird that they're trying to do this 20 years after the original. Just doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, I would imagine it's going to be a bomb. Martin Lane says, hi, Drinker. It's more than $50 and worth every penny. Greetings from Poland. Please keep up the amazing and important work that you're doing. Cheers, mate. Thank you, sir. I can't remember if I took a shot for this one on the night, but I'll take a little sip of wine. I'm being sophisticated, tonight, you see. Blackadder says, do you rate 1993's Tombstone? If Kurt Russell didn't direct it and credited director's son, then went on to make Mandy. Anyway, Val Kilmer was the GOAT in that film. He absolutely was, yeah. His Doc Holliday was fantastic. They had an all-star cast for that one. It was great. And yeah, overall, it's a pretty fun movie and surprisingly accurate to what actually happened, which is impressive. So yeah, good film. Not in like my sort of best Western of all time or anything, but like a good solid retelling of a pretty cool historical event. So yeah, I like it. Mike Raideno says, save your liver. Have you ever seen or reviewed Chayefsky's movie Network? I seen it way back when. It's obviously famous for the whole like I'm mad as hell thing. And I remember quite enjoying it at the time. I was probably too young to appreciate what it was really going for back then. But yeah, it'd be interesting to rewatch it now and see how it compares. Jordan Pendragon says, I was working on my car and ordered a part from O'Reilly Auto, a genuine US auto store. I came across part 121G. If you search for it, it's always out of stock, but I promise you'll get a genuine smile out of it. Right. Hold on. I'm going to have a look for that right now. Okay. Let's see what they got here. Oh, I'm not seeing it here. What is it? If you... I assume it's like the 1.21 gigawatts thing. Let's see. Make sure I'm on the right. Maybe it doesn't work here in the UK, sadly. Maybe we've got no sense of humor over here, eh? Probably. I'll try one more. Nah, it's not working. Sadly. No. I won't get to see what they were going to do. Oh well. Hunter says, Drinker, in a past happy hour, you mentioned you didn't like the Pacific that much when compared to Band of Brothers. Just wanted to get your thoughts. Also, would you stream Alien Isolation? Yeah, I'd be interested in streaming that. I think, yeah, because I talked with Lance about this when we were doing our Band of Brothers coverage. I think my issue with the Pacific is that there was too many characters. They weren't differentiated enough. I didn't get a strong sense of who everyone was compared to like Band of Brothers that that just gave you a quick understanding of all the major players. It took its time kind of introducing new people when it was relevant to each episode. And I don't know, I just felt like I knew everyone very quickly. Whereas with the Pacific, it meandered between loads of different characters, and I didn't have a sense of who everyone was and what they were doing. And yeah, maybe the setting of it is not as accessible for someone maybe like a Brit or something. Maybe Americans have a different view on it, but again, I understood the progress that Easy Company were making as they went from war zone to war zone and battle to battle. Yeah, and there just wasn't the same sense of like a core group of characters going through like a real journey together. So I think that was probably my big criticisms of the Pacific. The Almost Dead Man says, I ordered a copy of Frank Miller's Sin City and they sent me the wrong edition. It has nothing to do with the current discussion. I'm just that mad. I like that. Love your channel, by the way. Keep up the good work. Thank you, man. And I hope you get the correct copy that you ordered. Fazix says, Drinker, have you seen the Three Body Problem, the new US version? You've probably been asked this before. No, I'm not going to watch that because by all accounts it's shit. So I'm just not going to waste my time on it. Anzios says, how psyched are you for Arcane Season 2 since it drops this Saturday? And is there any hope for Andor Season 2? I am very interested in watching it. Looking forward to getting into it as soon as possible. And as for Andor, hopefully it's good. You know, I appreciated the quality of Andor Season 1. I wouldn't say I'm like bursting at the seams or anything to watch Season 2, but I'll be interested to see what they do with it. Casey Boyd says, Open Bar has done a great job of calling out bad modern writing in the West. We'd love to see more discussions on modern Eastern storytelling and a breakdown of why it's booming as opposed to the West. Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely a discussion to be had. I think, I don't know if Open Bar is the right venue for it because it tends to be more covering things that are current, like current news, current events, that sort of thing. Whereas that's like a broader discussion of the concepts behind the writing. I guess, you know, when things like Squid Game come out or you know, One Piece and stuff, I know that was like, we got the US version over here, but it's based on like an anime property. But yeah, I guess it's finding the right things to compare, I suppose, that's actually in the public consciousness to make it good for Open Bar. Marcin Stałczyk says, I'm going to become the king of the fighters. I'm drinking my last bottle of whiskey tonight. I shall talk to you, my friend, soon. All right, good luck to you, man. Darkest Nightshade says, Penguin review when finale releases. Can't wait to see if Dune Prophecy is a mess or complicated, mature, and epic. Arcane Season 2 hype too. Yes. Hopefully I'll be talking to Muller about Season 2 on the next Open Bar. And Penguin, yeah, I mean, when we're at the end of the season now, would people want to see me do another review? Because I only really did the first couple of episodes before. It might be nice to wrap it up. I suspect I'll just be reiterating what I already said, because my opinion of the show hasn't changed since that first review. Rated M says, Drinker, would you reach out to Gary to join FNT for when Troy Duffy from Boondock Saints is on? Having released your own indie movie, it would be a great back and forth. Cool. I mean, I can talk to Gary about that and see when they're having them on. Cowboy Commando says, have you seen the 1981 movie Outland featuring Sean Connery as a no-nonsense space marshal uncovering corruption on a Jupiter moon mining colony? Yeah, I have, yeah. Sean Connery did some interesting movies back in the day, and that was definitely one of them. Zardoz was another. That was next level. But yeah, I remember Outland being pretty good, just a sort of gritty, almost crime thriller, but with a sci-fi bent to it. Thought it was perfectly good, yeah. Ashitaka Amishi says, watching you take shots reminds me of Raiders of the Lost Ark, Marion's drinking game at the beginning. Looking forward to seeing you pass out. Aha, well, joke's on you because I stayed awake throughout the whole thing. And yeah, man, I must admit, towards the end, I was starting to pour slightly smaller shots because I was aware, like, yeah, I could quite easily I could quite easily pass out live on stream, and I don't want that. Bumpy Lucas says, Blanco Tequila, what does that say to you about me? I don't know. You like tequila, I guess. Jimmy Fandango says, new films are so shit, so I've been watching a lot of old films. The best film that I've seen this year is Helldivers from 1957. So good that I got the framed poster for my wall. Very cool. And yeah, good to always explore older stuff. We've got like, what, almost a century of movies that we can always catch up on. So, hey, there's plenty to choose from. Mr. Case says, have you played Fallout 3 or New Vegas? I've played both. I completed Fallout 3, didn't complete New Vegas. I'm very ashamed about that because apparently it's the best of the bunch of the recent Fallout games. So one day I'll get back into it. Edgar Marcano says, ever read anything by the British fantasy author David Gemmell? Absolutely an amazing author who died before his time. I'm familiar with his work, but I have not read his stuff, unfortunately. Terry says, hey, Drinker, long-time viewer, first-time chatter. What is your favorite mind-blowing twist in a movie? Something like the end of Mr. Nobody that changes the context of the rest of the movie up to that point. So, yeah, I think I answered this on the night. Probably The Usual Suspects was a great twist. That was so well constructed. And just, yeah, what a great turn by Kevin Spacey. Yeah, the idea that he was Kaiser Soze the whole time, and yeah, brilliant. The way he's walking away, the limp just straightens out. He just turns into a completely different man. I think I mentioned as well, I had The Sixth Sense spoiled for me, so that was a real shame. It was my own fault, though. I didn't see it quickly enough. But yeah, I think that was a good twist. I really enjoyed that one. Bilk Sirnier says, Drinker, here's 10 American dollary dues to drink you some water. Consider taking a long sip after each shot too. Yeah, well, I got to that later. Don't worry. Radio Spec says, no need for a shot, but I'm genuinely struggling to decide what I want to make my first video about for my channel. Media-wise, I love the same great movies, shows, and games, etc., but I don't want to hash the same ground that you all have. Any tips? I think I answered this on the night, but I guess, yeah, don't concentrate too much on what other people are doing. Just find the things that you're really passionate about and interested in. And I think that will come across in your work. Because I think the worst thing you can do sometimes is just do what you think people want to hear, or try and leap on whatever seems to be popular, but maybe you don't care about. Because ultimately, yeah, if you're not interested in it, then what's the point? Like, try and find stuff that you're passionate about. Ennis Stewart says, I highly recommend Mr. In Between. I know it comes up a lot in open bar, but I think you would absolutely love it. I do not doubt it, sir, and one day I will get around to watching it. Arbox says, you've done a few broad topic videos on writing in the past. Have you considered doing a series of full-on advice videos or subject and trope exploration? Yeah, definitely. It's something that, you know, I've kind of covered in various forms, I suppose. Like when I'm talking about why modern movies suck, I talk about the tropes of modern filmmaking and stuff that piss me off. But yeah, I like these broad topic discussions on like the theories behind writing, character development, all that sort of thing. And it is something I do want to do a lot more of as I go forward. So yeah, I will definitely be doing more of those things. D says, would you ever cover art house films too, and the way that they dehumanize men, just like pop crap content, movies like Marvel, etc.? There's a lot of bad art house films that would make for great analysis. I mean, yeah, in principle, I'm not against doing that at all. I think the problem is when you are critiquing movies like this, right, and you want to draw people's attention to, you know, tropes of filmmaking like this that, for example, are making men look like pieces of shit or whatever. People can relate to it a lot better when it is a big mainstream movie, partly because those are the films that really like influence our culture, and also because they're going to know the film. And so when you're making reference to certain characters or certain scenes, they're going to know what you're talking about. Whereas if it's some art house flick that not many people have heard of, you're then going to have to like patiently outline the entire story and the characters, the scene and everything to give them context for it. And then even then, they're not necessarily going to understand it fully because they won't have experienced it themselves. So, mainstream movies make for an easier, example and test case because people know what you're talking about then. Jeremy Soden says, on the subject of Fight Club, I looked at David Fincher's filmography recently. Wow, I think I found my favorite director. Yeah, he has produced some great stuff over the years and excellent director. Yeah, I think he got such a rough start with Alien 3, but yeah, he's definitely pulled it back since then. Hassler Scott says, I'm an American member of Clan Menzies and I don't drink at all because I'm a raging alcoholic. What could be more Scottish than that? Indeed, sir. Yeah. Also, Jeremy Soden says, another Fincher spacey twist, 7. Yep, that was a pretty good twist at the end. Well, it wasn't a twist so much as, just a fitting conclusion, I suppose, to the movie. Kind of a horrific one, but I suppose it was something that was kind of always building. Mark of Reality says, I had a conversation with my brother, the pilot, who told me that people all over the world were paying attention to our election in the US and were rooting for Trump, from England to Japan. Did you think this is true or not? So I can't tell you who everyone is rooting for, obviously, because, I don't know, but I can tell you people in the UK were definitely paying attention to it. We were all curious to see how it was going to pan out, and particularly in, the online space, we're all quite familiar with the culture war and all that stuff that's going on. And I think this was an interesting turning point in it. So we were curious to see how it was going to play out. So yeah, on election night, I think I stayed up till about 1 a.m. just to see if I might get some early results and get a sense of where it was going. It was far too early, obviously. Those weren't going to come out until much later. So kind of went to bed, woke up fairly early, like 6 a.m. or something, and went and saw the news then. And it was like he was already at 246 or something, and Kamala was like 190. So it was pretty obvious he was going to win by that point. So yeah, I just thought that's interesting how it played out, I suppose. Gamp's Law says, have you tried Octomore 15.3? How is it? What's your favorite smoky whiskey? I haven't had Octomore, no. In terms of smoky whiskies, the PA ones, probably Talisker, I think, would be the top one. I don't generally go for particularly like smoky ones or anything. I prefer them like a bit smoother, but yeah, that would probably be one of my picks, I guess. Kevin O'Neill says, is haggis a real dish or is it just a pile of gross that Scots trick tourists into eating? How dare you, sir? I tell you, man, back when I used to work, like when I was at uni, I would work weekends, right? So that I didn't have to do stuff during the week. I would go out and get shit-faced on a Saturday night, go into work and go to the restaurant or the canteen and get a haggis roll with a couple of hash browns on top of it. And that, no matter what your hangover, that will sort you right out. So yeah, it's got its place for sure. Horrible says, hey drinker, loved your recent Romulus Fix-It vid. How do you use video clips on YouTube of films for your channel without getting copyright strikes? Well, it's a bit of luck of the draw. If you try and keep the clips to less than, say, 10 seconds, you might be okay. Certain companies, Warner Brothers, Universal Studios, are fucking assholes when it comes to copyright, and they will always find a way to pick you up on it, no matter how careful you are, even if it's like weeks later. If it is, I don't care so much because it's like, well, kind of made all the revenue I'm going to make out of the video in the first few days, realistically. But yeah, it kind of depends on the studio. But there's certain things you can try and do to avoid it for a while. Like say, keep the clips short. You can even position them. You can rotate them slightly so they're slightly off axis or whatever. That sometimes confuses the copyright system. You can flip it 180 degrees horizontally. Again, it can sometimes mess with it and trip it up. It's just, you have to just try it, I suppose, and see what works. And Chris Nicholson says, you're awesome, drinker. People like you are the reason that the world is healing. Oh, thank you, sir. And I thought I was apparently just a hateful bigot, but there you go. I'm doing my best. But yeah, I'm glad I can help out a little bit. But anyway, that was the last of the super chats right there. And I want to say, I really enjoyed doing that Ask the Drinker stream the other night, like just doing shots and answering questions. I mean, what better way to spend the evening, you know? It was good fun. I hadn't done it for a long time since, like, up until then. So I'm glad I could get back into it. And hopefully I can do them more often because it seems like a good opportunity for people to ask me questions they wouldn't normally do on open bar or whatever, because it's like you've got my undivided attention, I suppose, for a few hours. So yeah, I guess look out for more. But the next time you see me will probably be on open bar this week. And then I'm off to Grand Rapids for the weekend. So anyway, that is all I've got for today. So go away now